Get ready for MEOWCAST, brought to you by the Cat Show Network. Join your host, Shayla Copas, as she explores the fascinating world of cats. Each episode, Shayla chats with a diverse lineup of guests, including veterinarians, cat behaviorists, and passionate cat owners, sharing their expertise and stories. Ready to dive in? Let's get this party started.
I'm on today for the first broadcast of MEOWCAST, and I'm here with Dr. Petra Cerna from the Crazy Cat Vet. I am so excited to have you with us. Tell us a little bit about yourself before we get started.
Hey everybody, I am so excited to be here and have this opportunity to talk about cats because that's one of my favorite things in life. I just love to talk about cats. So I am actually a feline medicine specialist. So I am originally from Czech Republic, where I did my vet school. Then I moved to UK, where I worked for 2 years there. And then I did my internal medicine residency at Colorado State University, where I'm actually now completing my second PhD, actually, in feline infectious peritonitis. So I'm kind of a professional student and really dedicated to feline research. But I am also a cat breeder and have been breeding since actually showing for over 20 years now, and breeding cats for almost 20 years as well. Originally, I started with British Shorthairs, and I had 1 litter of exotics, and now I have a couple of ragdolls as well. So I'm kind of the ultimate level of a crazy cat lady.
Yeah, and we were talking earlier about how we could really do a podcast just on crazy cat ladies, and if we could ever get married.
Yes,
I am married, but I'm not so certain I could get married again. My husband luckily loves me a lot before I got the cats.
Oh, yeah, I know. I should have married the first guy I dated before I had all these cats.
So I'm excited that you have a feline-only veterinarian practice. Can you tell us a little bit about what inspired you to go into that arena? Was there like some aha moment?
Yeah, I just always kind of loved cats. I started with cats, and now even, I'm an all-breed international cat judge too. And I think I'm one of the youngest cat judges probably out there as well, because I just think I started so young with cats. I've always loved cats as a kid, and then I started like showing and breeding when I was about 14. So very, very young. Yeah, when I was 18, I had my first like cat organization, and
oh my goodness, you've been like an entrepreneur your entire life.
Yeah, I know. You don't see it in my bank account though. But yeah, I've just always loved cats. So my family, and I wanted to become a vet. So I was actually working at one of our vet practices where my cats used to go over summer during like school breaks and stuff. And then my vet wouldn't pay me, but then I would get all my cat pregnancy ultrasound and some vaccines and all of this kind of for free for the help that I was doing. And I just loved being there. And I wanted to go to vet school, but my family was very much against it because it's sometimes it's not a business. People always think vets make so much money, but, with the years you spent in studying and all of that, it's not really the best business you can do. And especially if you love animals. And then, so I went to law school initially, actually, and got my bachelor. And then in secret, I applied to vet school because my family was just like, we want you to be a lawyer and like make a lot of money and do all of that. And then I got my bachelor degree, and then I actually did my master's part-time too in law. But vet school just changed my life, and just since day one, I just knew this is what I was meant to be doing. And I always knew I was gonna be a cat specialist. And there were quite a lot of professors in my school who didn't believe I could be a feline specialist and just see cats, because it's not really a thing back in Czech Republic. But I always told them if I can't be a cat vet, I just go back and being a lawyer, because I don't want to do anything else in my life. And here I am, like couple decades later, and really just seeing cats and helping so many cats around the world.
That's wonderful. Can you share some of the unique challenges that you faced? I mean, have there been unique challenges just specializing only in felines?
Absolutely, especially in the United States, I have to say, because in UK, where I worked after vet school for 2 years, feline medicine is a huge thing there, and feline specialists are actually hugely appreciated. And if you come there and say, "Oh, I'm a specialist and I just want to see cats," like everybody wants to hire you because nobody wants to really work with cats because they are very challenging creatures. But it's not such a, at the specialist level in the United States, it's a very rare thing. So there are not that many people doing what I do. There are a lot of amazing feline-only general practitioners, but at the specialist level, there are really very few. So I think that's one of the biggest challenges. But my motto in life, and one of my technicians actually gave me this sticker, and there is this cute cat on it, and it says persist. So that's like my life motto. And, already I was like, my parents didn't want me to go to vet school. I was taught in vet school that I cannot just be a cat vet, and here I am. So I think if you really persist because you have a passion in life, you definitely can achieve so much.
Is there a way that a clinic should be set up differently for cats? That if it's only cat and dogs are not coming in, what is the difference on how you should set up your clinic?
Absolutely. Cats are actually very, very special creatures. So they are, as we know, they love being home, right? They love sleeping home, and they have very, very strong sense of smell, for example. So coming to the vet clinic is very, very stressful because we take them out of their natural environment, usually shove them in a small cat carrier that they see once a year, and then drive with them in a car. And then they go to the vet clinic where they smell the alcohol. Often, unfortunately, they do smell the dogs and other animals as well. And then, so cats really are fantastic and special creatures because they are, of course, hunters and predators, but they're also prey in nature. And that's where all their behavioral actually develops from, because they have very strong, of course, hunting senses and very strong kind of predator sense. But on the other hand, they also know that they can get hurt. So they have a lot of what we call protective emotions. So that's why very often when cats actually, a lot of people call them aggressive. I really do not like using any negative language with cats because it's just their protective emotions. And they are just telling us that way that they are not happy. So
it's just like us. It's like females.
I know, right?
That's why we love cats so much.
Yes, absolutely. And yeah, actually a friend of mine sent me a picture this morning, and she was like, what is my spirit animal? And my spirit animal is definitely a cat, because, with cats, you can never make them do what they don't want to do, like the same with me. So I think I'm a cat at heart as well. That's why I respect them so much, and I really respect their behavioral, and I tried working around them and motivating them positively with like treats or toys and stuff to do the things I want them to do rather than forcing them to do stuff, because that's never going to happen, right?
Right. And I noticed the other day I was looking through your social media, and you had this cool cat carrier that you suggested that people bring their cats to the vet in. Can you talk a little bit about that? Because I thought it was really neat, and just from the safety aspect, and also just, from a comfort perspective.
Absolutely. So I think we really, really underappreciate the importance of a good cat carrier, because a lot of my clients know by now that if they don't bring cat in a good carrier, I actually refuse to see their cats. Because it's a very stressful experience for them, the cat, and me also, because, we of course need to see cats, and my whole social media and all of that is really trying to promote understanding cats and bringing cats to the vet. And we can probably talk about that some other time, about why cats really need to go at least once a year to the vet. But getting back to the cat carriers, so we actually really want that the carrier is safe and sturdy. So if you see those like very soft cat carriers that do not have any hard bottom, it's really uncomfortable for the cat, because the cat's moving in there doesn't feel very safe. Then another thing is, if I cannot open the carrier from the top, imagine how do I get the cat out, right? Like some cats are and like, especially when we work with pedigree cats, and they go to shows, I absolutely love those, because they are just used to, traveling and working with people and meeting other people they do not know since they were kittens. So actually show cats are one of my like favorite patients, because they just have been, through so much since they were kittens, and they're so well adjusted to that lifestyle. But getting that 12-year-old cat that is her first or second time at the vet, unfortunately, they don't understand what's going on. And then if I have to drag them out of the carrier, it's a very stressful experience for them and also for me, because every time I have to do something the cat doesn't enjoy, it really hurts me. And it's one of my cats there. And sorry about that.
It's okay. What's your cat's name?
This one actually is a joy. She was in my other video the other day. She has the, I don't want to say the word here, but she has the resting bee face,
Yeah.
Something like that cat. She's actually a very sweet cat, but she looks like she's non-stop upset.
Oh, so cute.
Yeah, but she was a singleton kitten when I bred her. So, but yeah, so very, very important that I can actually open the carrier on the top, because usually when you get a really good carrier that's comfortable for the cat, so the one I use is very hard on the outside, but very soft with a special padding on the inside. So the cat, even like a geriatric, older, senior cat with osteoarthritis, feels comfortable. And I just open the top and I can actually do all my physical exam and everything in the carrier. So I don't even have to get the cat out of it. So that's really wonderful. Yes. And I'm always pro safety because my cats are my life. So I actually use like crash tested carriers that I know because I'm not the best driver. So if anything ever happened, I know they are safe,
I'm the same way. I think I need this carrier.
No, and they make them in these most beautiful colors. I actually have a pink one and a rose gold one.
Nice.
And they have a special version on the plane. I will actually be making a video about that one that actually goes on the handle of the trolley.
Nice.
Yeah. They're great.
Okay, so we're gonna go into judging. You're a cat show judge, right?
Yes.
Okay. Yes. Can you tell us the name of your organization and about that organization and kind of how you got involved in that?
Absolutely. So the full name actually comes from French, and French is one of the few languages I will never be able to speak, so I will pronounce it terribly. But it's the Fédération Internationale Feline. So it's a international cat federation that I work for, or called FIFE. And it's a mainly European organization, but we of course have members from all over the world. So last weekend I was just judging at the cat show in Brazil. So we do have a lot of members in Latin America or South America as well.
Great. So what kind of qualifications would you need to be a cat show judge in your organization? So I participate in CFA, and I know it's quite different. Yeah. So tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, it was actually a very long process. So you have to first, of course, show and breed cats before you can and then you become a judge's assistant. We call them stewards. So that's all of it you have to do before they even let you sit a preliminary exam to become a student judge. So it's a very complicated kind of and many year process. So people always think it's very easy to become a cat judge, but it actually is very difficult. For my first category, which was the short hair category, which back then had 24 breeds, I had to fly all over the world for over 2 years and see almost 1,200 cats back then. From every single breed. There were some rare breeds like Sokoki or, for example, Snowshoe, that they are not very common. So sometimes I had to fly to like a specific show in, let's say, Sweden or somewhere just to see that one breed, and it was like a one cat at the cat show. So it was a lot of work, and I had to take exams from the standards and genetics and a lot of health stuff as well. So I think it was a long process. I took my first category 3 exam back in 2014, so actually over 10 years ago now. And then I always loved Persians and exotics. So category 1, which was back then Persians and exotics, was my number 2 category. And then I took my Orientals and Siamese. And just last year, I actually finished my semi-long hair category, so Maine Coons and Norwegian Forest Cats. So it took me a long time because when I started doing my internships and then a residency, I really didn't have much time to go to the cat shows all the time. So because I was working about minimum 80 hours a week. So I just, so it was a very hard training program for that. And I, of course, wanted to be the best best cat vet I could be. So I only finished my category, last category last year. So it took me about 10 years to become an all-breed judge.
That is great. A lot of work. Kudos to you, because that's just, I mean, it's so much determination and you're so goal-oriented. In your experience, do you think that cat shows contribute to the advancement of feline health and breeding standards?
Yeah, I think there is actually, and I struggle with this, especially in the United States. I think there is often a lot of negativity against breeders and, pedigree cats. And I really struggle with that because I love all cats. I actually work with a lot of breeders. I work with a lot of rescues, and most of the breeders, and especially the registered breeders, who really go to shows and really love their cats and take care of them, are wonderful people who love cats so much. Like, for example, last weekend when I was in Brazil, they had 10,000 visitors at the cat show over the 2 days.
Wow.
So I know, it was
That's
amazing.
a huge gate. That's huge.
I know, it was amazing. And they actually could have made a lot of money asking people for entry fees to the cat show, but instead they asked them to donate like food and litter to the local rescue. So there was a full room of just cat litter that was donated to the local rescue, and 13 cats from the rescue found homes there too. So I really think, cat shows are promoting cats in general and not just pedigree cats. And it's a wonderful experience to see that. So I really am trying to help, because when I say I am a cat breeder, I actually get a lot of negativity on social media, for example.
Yes.
So I really try promoting that it's not a terrible thing. Like, I'm a cat breeder, and I can promise you, like, I love cats more than anything. I would give up my liver and kidney to help my cats,
Yes.
And I work with a lot of rescues, and we do a lot of fundraising, and my ideal dream, because I had a kitty from a rescue that was a senior kitty, and then unfortunately she passed. She had
Sorry.
Yes, she had little pumpkin. She had the 3 different types of cancer, but she was a fighter. But we lost her, and I actually want to start a fund, Pumpkin's name, that would be helping shelter cats to get specialty feline medicine care if they need it. So that's one of my kind of next life goals for the future. I definitely think cat shows are wonderful. A lot of cat shows actually are trying to promote. I've been invited to a couple to give a talk to breeders, and I organize the online cat breeder conference once a year as well. So I think a lot of cat shows are really trying to promote cat health and just generally, trying to promote cat well-being as well. So I'm really hoping that someday we will be looking at this in a little bit different way, and not that, oh my God, you're a cat breeder, you're a horrible person.
And a lot of that's education to the
Yes.
public, so
Yes.
that they can understand the difference between a preservation breeder and a backyard breeder. There's a big difference in that.
Yes, absolutely, because I am very much against, kitten mills and those
Yes.
breeders who do not register their kittens and really just have multiple litters a year where they give away the kittens at very young age, unvaccinated and stuff. So, but people need to, I think, realize that there is a big difference, because registered breeders follow a lot of actually rules, especially in Europe. Like, these are government regulated things, so very, very strict.
That's great.
Yes.
Yeah, and a lot of people don't understand that it is very important to be involved in organizations such as FIFA and CFA, because as we support them, we support initiatives, and it helps with our legislation, and it helps with the education for the public and breeders as well to become better breeders.
Absolutely.
Don't you think that that's
Absolutely.
part of the issue with our backyard breeders is they're a lot of them are like, we don't want to spend the money, we want to cut corners, and that's where the good ones are getting a bad name.
Yes, absolutely. I can promise you in 20 years, I have not made a single penny out of my cat breeding. Obviously, probably I'm doing something terribly wrong, but last year we had a litter with 6 kittens, and we had a C-section, which was like, $6,000 just for that.
Oh my goodness.
Yes, yeah. So I was just like, I'm a vet and I have all these vet discounts, and I still had barely enough money to pay off like the litter, in the C-section and the vaccines and all the, early, because I spay and neuter my kittens before they go to new pet homes and all of that. So I think that's very important as
It
well.
is.
The microchips and the vaccines and all of this, so.
Yeah,
Definitely.
well, ESN, that could be a whole nother podcast, but
Yes.
kind of briefly touch on ESN and why you feel that it's so important. I agree with you on that. I think it's very important.
Yeah, I think early space and neuters are super important because one, I think for me as a breeder, it's the point that I never want my kitten to end up in some kitten mill, you know. So a lot of people, because it was very common back in Czech Republic, because of course the show pedigree breeding cat is a completely different price than the pet cat, right? So I like never wanted them to end up in some kitten mill that people just like pretend that they want them as pets, and then they would use them for kind of the backyard breeding. So that was one thing. But two, of course, we don't want them to overpopulate. Sometimes some kittens will have some faults, and even though we, color faults, of course, which are not a huge impact on health, but there are, of course, some things that even if you do all the genetic tests and do all the tests in the world, you can still have kittens that potentially might have some minor health issue. Then you don't want those to reproduce further, right? So I think it's really important that, and also for reproduction control and everything, we really just want few of those cats that we breed to actually go for like breeding to other breeders as well. So I think early space and neuters are just very, very important.
Yes. And I mean, there's people on both sides of the fence. Mm-hmm. I agree with you that I think and I have the same feeling about that. I don't want my cat to go into a kitten mill. You just never know what's going to happen.
Exactly.
And you don't know how responsible those pet owners are going to be as well. And so it just adds another layer of protection for those kitties.
Exactly. Or very often I have clients who adopt two kittens from the litter. So then I don't want that, the boy and the girl who are brother and sister to go and accidentally mate, because, sometimes cats can just start reproducing at very young age as well.
Yeah. I had one like that. I had a 4-month-old that came here, and he was already wanting to mate.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
That was really young.
Yes, exactly. Now they can start very, very early with their reproduction. I do see the other side, like from the veterinary standpoint. I do see that, for example, in those very large breed of cats like Maine Coons, I can potentially see that we, because they have a lot of hip dysplasia problems, and the early neutering potentially can affect those. So I think with those really, really big cats and in lines where there might be some health issues with those hips and other, especially with hips, but other bone problems, then those cats might be, neutered a little bit later and in life than at very, at 3 months or so. So I do see both points, but I think in majority of the cats, it's very, very safe to do early space and neuters.
Yes, and Bengals, especially, and I'm in Bengals, it's helpful for their just with their socialization and how they adapt. Because those hormones can really make them into a different cat, and they don't really act like pets when they have those hormones.
Yep, I absolutely agree. I really admire you. I wouldn't want a female Bengal in heat at home even if you paid me, because they're very loud. They are very loud girls, right?
Right, they're very loud, and I'm a new breeder, and so I'm learning all the fun lessons. Oh, hi, baby.
Yeah, that's
Is
Joy.
this the one with the resting face?
Yes, it is her. She's very sweet cat.
I didn't say the word that had to be.
Yes, I know. Thank you. I appreciate it.
But I'm new, and so I didn't realize how quickly she would go into heat. And I woke up one day, and I was getting in my office working, and before I knew it, she had gone to the bathroom. I'd been spring cleaning, and she'd gone to the bathroom on all my clothes.
Yeah.
It was a lot of clothes.
Yes.
So we sent them to the dry cleaner.
Oh.
And it was so embarrassing. My husband took them.
Oh, yeah.
Can you imagine?
It is a lot of work to be a breeder. I can definitely. Sorry, my cat is like trying to.
Your cat can come in anytime. It's the MEOWCAST.
Yeah, great. I'm glad. But she's trying to cuddle with the screen, and last time I was doing like a webinar, and one of the cats was like cuddling with the screen, doing like this on the screen, and they shut the laptop off. So. Yeah.
Well, okay, so let's go into FIP. So it's historically been a fatal disease, but recent research offers a lot of hope. I would like to know what your feelings are on the advancements and how things are going with that.
Yeah, no, I think this is actually one of my favorite topics to talk to because one, it affects a lot of pedigree cats, of course. So we do see a big problem in pedigree cats, but also, of course, I've lost my couple of my personal British, especially to FIP. So it's a topic that's very, very close to my heart, and that's why I'm doing my a PhD at CSU now in feline infectious peritonitis, and we have made absolutely amazing advancements. So actually now FIP has amazing prognosis for cats. So with the new antiviral medications, I usually give clients about 85% chance that their cat will be absolutely fine and will, live happily ever after, and hopefully, go to live till 15, 20 when they have a chronic kidney disease or something like that. So it's really been absolutely wonderful. We still need more research because we do still lose some of those cats, and I really want to understand why. And especially in pedigree cats, I really think there's a huge genetic predisposition to the disease. So I really believe that we need to work on more genetic testing for these cats to try to, develop a test where we could be able to predict which pedigree cats, if they're mated together, could have maybe kittens with FIP to try to prevent that.
For sure. And is that part of the clinical trial that you're doing at Colorado State University?
It is not part of my clinical trial, but I'm now going to work with the University of Sydney because they just I was actually offered to do a third PhD, but I was just like, I really need an adult job.
Where do you have time for all this?
Yeah, I know. And plus, my cats can't really move to Australia because it's very complicated for cats to go to Australia. So I was just like, no, but it was actually probably my absolute dream because it's a PhD in actually genetics on FIP. So I'm actually going to be helping with their PhD student to collect some samples. I might be in touch and asking a lot of breeders for help in the near future to get samples for the research.
Yeah, FIP, it's very close to my heart as well. Before I started getting into breeding, which again, I'm very, very new, but my first pet that I got had, my very first Bengal had FIP. And at the time, there was not a lot known about it. And so they did have the drug, but it wasn't FDA approved at the time. So you had to get it in other ways, right?
Yes.
Which, I mean, you just did. You had to make a decision. And the vet I worked with at the time wanted to put the cat to sleep. Unfortunately, I didn't want to do that. Well, fortunately for the cat, but unfortunately for he and I, I had to sever the relationship. I still liked him, but we had a difference of opinion on that. He thought that the cat would have neurological issues and there would be some there'd be some permanent damage to the cat. I was willing to take the risk. And because we took the risk, the cat's alive today, and we're now saving other cats in the state of Arkansas because I'm able to serve as really a liaison to that treatment, because even though the treatment is now FDA approved, there's a real problem with still getting vets to buy into it. At least that's what we're seeing here. Have you seen that?
Yeah, so actually I just want to say it's still not, the only one that's FDA approved is still the remdesivir.
Yes.
So the PS is not yet FDA approved, but the FDA has made an exception to this kind of, we call it a bulk compounding substance because there is no other treatment. So it's not still like a fully FDA approved treatment, of course, like remdesivir, because remdesivir, the human drug for COVID-19 or SARS-CoV-2, is a fully FDA-approved drug, and we can actually prescribe it for cats off-label, but it's very expensive. So the vial is about $500, and it lasts like 2 days. So like not many people can really afford that, unfortunately.
Yes.
But I can now, and like any vet in the United States and also now Canada and UK and Australia and many other countries can prescribe to a compounding pharmacy the GS medication.
Yes.
And we, of course, have now actually, yes, exactly, to be used. And I definitely do see still, and I do actually give about once or twice a month, I travel to different places all over the United States to give lectures on this topic to local vets. So I work with one of the compounding pharmacies because they are very passionate about educating more veterinarians, because we of course would love for more vets to be able to feel comfortable prescribing the drug, but also to diagnose FIP and how to manage these cats, because it's a very new, it's probably the biggest advancement in feline medicine we've had in decades.
It is.
And so I absolutely agree. I think, we need more education. It's just been not even a year actually that we've been able to prescribe it. And I do see huge advancement, and vets are really wanting to learn more about it and be able to do it. But I still understand there are a lot of barriers and a lot of people are still afraid. But also I think just diagnosing it, because I think FIP can really look in many, many different ways, and just feeling comfortable with the diagnosis, because some of the FIP cases I see, it's very untypical presentation. So I think we just had a cat that presented in a congestive heart failure from its FIP. Very
Really?
untypical. Exactly. So initially it was believed that because it was a Maine Coon as well, so it was believed that the cat actually has HCM and it's in a heart failure because of that. But we actually discovered that it's an FIP, and the cat got treated and the heart is now completely normal. So the cat has no actually underlying heart disease. So it's a very fascinating disease, and it can cause a lot of different signs. So I do believe we need a lot more education on this.
Do you think that there's some strategies that could be recommended for managing the disease in a multi-cat environment?
Absolutely. So I actually strongly believe there's a huge genetic predisposition to FIP. So what I tell people, as a breeder, you have a litter where kittens had FIP. I say absolutely do not do the same mating again, because I think there's just such a high chance that you will have more FIP kittens. I think if it's very rare line, or, the cat is just super, super nice and you really want to do a second litter with that cat, I would say get a completely unrelated male and do one more litter. If there is, again, kittens with FIP, then I really recommend that we spay that cat, because it's just at the moment, until we have genetic tests and stuff, this is for me the best way. Otherwise, stress plays a huge role in FIP, and we of course know in multi-cat households, I have, 5 cats at home, so you really need to do a lot of environmental management for these cats. So my cats have a catio, multiple scratching trees, they still scratch my sofa and everything, but really,
Yeah.
exactly. I wouldn't have 5 cats if I have a studio, so just having a lot of opportunities for the cats' natural behavior, so they are not stressed. So if cats feel stressed, their immune system goes down, and then they just get so many infectious diseases. We do see it with FIP, we do see it with feline herpes virus as well. So I actually talk to a lot of breeders, because of course we have always multi-cat households, about environmental modifications and some stress management, because it plays a huge role in infectious diseases in cats.
You mentioned the male and maybe not using the male again. Do you think the studs are the common denominator?
I don't think it's the stud or the female. I actually think it's the combination. So to give you an example, I, for example, had one of my best British short hair males that I've had, and he sired a lot of litters, lot of litters, like not just, quite few, not like hundreds of kittens, but he had quite few litters, because he was just a really, really fantastic cat. And I had litters with him from my cats, never had an issue. And then I imported these cats from Australia with the 2 girls. And then like him with one of the females, I had 5 kittens in the litter, and they all had FIP.
Wow.
And he actually never had an FIP kitten with any of my other females. So I think it's sometimes the combination that really makes it, because that litter was a complete disaster. Unfortunately, it was years ago where we had no treatment, not even the black market GS, so this was like 10 years ago, maybe longer. So I had to euthanize all the 5 kittens. We actually lost the mom to FIP as well. And I had to take like a 2-year break from breeding after that, because it was the most heartbreaking story I ever had. And so I think it's really the combination. So I'm not saying the male cannot have any other kittens, but just don't mate him with the same female.
Okay. Well, I mean, that's good advice, and there's so many different opinions on that. So it'll be I'll be interested to see how your research turns out. I tend to agree because you do see. I mean, I know of a personal situation, not my cats, but a situation of another breeder that's had a large percentage in a stud. And so, it is kind of like I did hear in some FIP education that they said, if you get 2 or 3 from a stud, then you probably need to neuter the stud.
Yeah, absolutely. And I agree with that very much. So, yeah.
Yeah, because there's no way it's not genetic if it's coming from the same parents, and maybe the immune system is just not the same.
Exactly, exactly. Because I actually used to breed blue British and a color-pointed British back, 15 years ago. And my color-pointed British, they never had FIP. I never had a single color-pointed British with FIP. And then I had like maybe 15 kittens with the blue, the blue ones with FIP. The kittens grew up in the same environment, were fed the same food and everything. So, a lot of, there was in the past, I think if you had FIP in your breeding, you were a terrible breeder who didn't clean, and didn't take good care of your cats. Like, again, I am biased, but I promise I really take very good care of my cats. And, the color pointed just never had FIP. And in my blues, it was like 1 liter after another sometimes. And it was really for like 2 years. And I just then neutered all the cats and restarted with new lines. And then it stopped. So
wow.
Yeah.
That's big right there.
Yeah. So I think it's really important to just not breeding with these cats. And, unfortunately, it's like the British, the Ragdolls, the Bengals, the Sphinx, those are Maine Coons. Unfortunately, we do see a lot of Maine Coons too. So those are one of the most predisposed breeds to FIP, actually.
There are some breeders that offer in their contract, and I've been considering this, that if there is an FIP case that they're willing to pay for the treatment. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think it's wonderful. One of my kittens actually last year developed FIP, so we actually I treated him. It was in my clinical trial. Actually, I also I always provide a guarantee if any of my kittens develop, have any congenital or any genetic. I run all the possible genetic tests we have, but sometimes you just can't avoid everything, right? So if any of my kittens within the first 2 years get sick from like a hereditary or congenital disease, I help with the treatment. But I always, if unfortunately the cat passes, I always provide a replacement kitten as well.
For those listening that are not breeders, can you give a few examples of those types of diseases so they'll understand?
Absolutely. So I think the best one is actually HCM, or hypertrophic cardiomyopathy, because we have some genes that are responsible for the disease. So we know about 1 gene in Ragdolls and 1 gene in Maine Coons, for example. But some breeds, and even the ones that are genetically tested and do not carry the gene, because it's a kind of multifactorial and polygenetic, so there are more genes than just the one responsible for the development of the disease. So cats can still get hypertrophic cardiomyopathy, even if they test negative for that one gene, so Ragdolls and Maine Coons. So I do echocardiograms in all my cats, every year, even though my best friend here actually is a cardiologist, a boarded cardiologist, and she thinks I'm crazy that I always, before every mating and litter, we just look at the heart again. And she said, they are fine. You can probably do it every 2 years. But I was just like, I want to be 100% sure. But one time I did actually have a kitten that had HCM, unfortunately, even though the parents were completely normal. So sometimes this can unfortunately happen, unlike like polycystic kidney disease, for example. So that's a big disease in Persian and exotic short hair cats, but it's a dominant gene. So if you have the disease, you have the gene. So there is no way that you do not have the gene and then develop the disease later. So it's a very different. So we have diseases that we can prevent by doing genetic testing, and some diseases, unfortunately, that we cannot predict even with genetic testing, or we have no genetic testing available for that.
Well, and with HCM, it's hard to predict it even with testing each year, right? Because you could have a great turnout. I mean, like you literally you could go in and everything looks fine 1 year, and then 2 years later it doesn't. right?
Absolutely. This can change. I always think if there is a severe heart disease, usually we can see it in young cats. Those are the ones that usually die very young within first few years of life. However, this is a disease that can show and develop later in life as well. So very important that we screen before the first mating for sure for HCM, especially in those breeds that are more predisposed to it, like, British, Sphinx, Bengals get that as well, of course. So in all these breeds, but I think it's also important, especially, in male cats that potentially produce more litters, that we really stay on annual screening with these cats. But currently the recommendations for non-breeding cats are usually if there is a normal heart, we usually don't recheck it or just recheck it, in couple years. But I will have one of my friends, the one that's my cat's personal cardiologist. She will be delivering a whole cardiology talk on HCM for breeders during my online breeder conference as well. So we will dive really deep into HCM there.
When is your conference?
We actually have the first day is July. I will double check. I think it's the July 12th, and then the second day is August 9th.
Yeah. Great. And how can breeders sign up for that?
Yeah, I actually have it on my social media. I have a website link that I'm happy to share with everybody as well. It's the third year we are actually organizing this conference, and it's a 2-day conference with 4 speakers each day. I will be talking about infectious diseases in multi-cat households, like in pedigree cats, especially in catteries. So I'll talk about herpes, calicium, FIP.
Wonderful.
We will have the cardio talk. We'll have 2 talks on genetics, actually. We'll have a talk on fertility problems in cats as well. So we are covering a lot of topics because I believe that educating breeders is very important.
And to follow you, can you give your handle on Instagram?
Yes, absolutely. And I would love that if people wanted to follow me more. So it's a crazy_cat_vet. So crazy cat vet. And yeah, I would love for anybody to follow me on my social media. I post a lot of cool cat stuff every day.
Yes, I can attest to that. We will actually put that up as well, so that people can see it before they listen to the podcast. But it's always nice to hear it.
Thank you.
I want to go into advice on new breeders. Like, what advice would you give a new breeder, such as myself?
Yes, I think it's so much actually, to cover. I think number one is I was very lucky. The breeder I got my first kitten from ever was actually a wonderful person, and he was always available for help. We actually ended up, becoming friends and going to cat shows. I was going, because I was 14, 15 back then, so I was going to cat shows with him and his wife, and, we were like traveling all over, and then so it was a lot of fun. So I think, really choosing a very responsible and a good breeder that you get your first kitten from is very, very important. Then I think with cats, it's always be prepared for the unpredictable, and, you just need to be prepared for anything that can happen. So I remember my second litter that was born one day. So I had 2 litters. My first 2 litters were born one day apart. And my second litter, the mom actually, she has some like lactation psychosis. She absolutely refused to take care of the kittens. So I had 8 kittens that she refused to nurse. And I absolutely wasn't ready for that. So we lost 2 of those kittens, but 6 of them actually, lived and became very happy and beautiful and very spoiled kittens. But, it was just like, I wasn't ready for it. Like, I didn't know anything about hand feeding, syringe feeding, or tube feeding back then. So I just wasn't ready. I had no idea which milk formula to choose. Doing a lot of research on these topics, and just, if things go smoothly, it's amazing. But I think it's really, really important to be really ready for anything with cats. So I always have milk at my house and stuff, so I prefer that it expires than that I do not have it, because I just hate being unprepared. I'm a type A person. So and I actually am preparing a couple talks now for a big conference in Edinburgh, where we'll be talking about actually breeding and neonatology and how to take care of kittens. So there will be a lot of the stuff. And we are actually having a lot of new research now on actually we now have these kitten growth charts and how to monitor how the kittens are growing, because if they're not gaining enough weight, there might be something wrong with them, and we need to really follow up on that and help them. Or actually, if they grow too fast, they might end up having some developmental problems as well. So it's really, really interesting. And so now there are a lot of studies actually looking just at the weight of the kittens and how it develops them. So I am very passionate now I always weigh my kittens all the time and just follow that. So I think it's very important. And of course, going to cat shows, because that's where, I met so many amazing people. So I have friends all over the world, literally, just because of the cat show. So I have friends in Italy, Sweden, Finland, Norway, and everywhere, Spain, Portugal, Brazil now, Mexico. So I could probably do like a 1-year vacation around the world and just visit my cat breeder friends. And I think it's wonderful to meet people that share the same hobby.
It is. And, they're all in it for the same reason, because they love cats.
Yes.
And they want to help each other, and they really want to promote the fancy in general, cats. It's just, it's so cool, and it is very enriching. I know that being new into it, I've been in showing a couple years, that I had no idea how much work went into it until my very first year. I did a campaign. That was a lot, and so I can only imagine going through the judging program as you have, and starting at 14 years old.
Yes, no, it was a lot. I remember back then, back then in Czech Republic and stuff, internet wasn't so huge as well. So I actually had a breeder send me actually by post a photo, and my grandma had to, because now we have the sturdy cages and all of these that you bring it, you pop it up. But my grandma was back in Czech Republic when I started 20 years ago, we had these metallic cages, and my grandma had to make these curtains for the cage, and stuff. So it was so much stuff to carry at every show, and it was just a nightmare. So these days, when I just put the one of those show shelters on one arm and then 2 cats in each hand, and that's completely different to all the 10 bags that I had to carry in the past. No.
Yeah, and it is a lot, though. I mean, even you're in ragdolls, so you're having to really fluff those cats up and make sure they don't have a lot of oil before they go out, and all the stuff. I mean, that routine, the grooming routine is intense.
Yes, I bath my cats every month, and if we want to stay in the top show kind of quality, sometimes even twice a month with the ragdolls. And I used to have a Persian male, and we had to bath him minimum once a week for him to stay in the top show condition. And to actually dry him was several hours. So I would spend usually I do now once a month, I pick a day, usually it's a Sunday or Saturday when I'm not working and stuff. And I just start bathing from morning and I finish in the evening, because it's a lot of work. And so it's definitely a lot of work. And at the cat shows, you get a lot of tips. So actually one of my friends from Norway recommended this. They now make these dryer boxes for the cats.
I have one.
Oh my God. I would never want to live in a time where I do not have one as well. So yeah.
I can't survive on that alone, though.
No.
So I need with a long hair, because I did show, I agented and co-owned a long hair Scottish Fold this year. Beautiful cat. But I would start out with my dryer, my, what is it called? The little pig, or what is that? What's that dryer called again?
Which one?
The pig. It's the flying pig.
Yeah. I don't know that.
I think that's what it's called, the flying pig.
Okay, yeah.
Anyway, I'd start out with a flying pig and get him all dried off, and then put him in the dryer for a while, and that kind of just gets everything a little bit fluffy, and then finish him off with the dryer. Are you able to do a ragdoll completely in a
No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. Not even for home condition. So I always pre-dry them there, and then I hand dry them at the end. That's for a home condition, but I'm I want my cats to look pretty even when we don't go to shows. But for shows, that's like I just pre-dry them a little bit and then I hand dry them most of the time. So it is a lot of work. It is a lot of work.
It's a lot of commitment.
Yeah, yes. I don't definitely spend that much time on my hair, so.
I don't either. Since I got the cats, I think my little regimen has gone down to nothing. I can do my makeup now in 10 minutes.
Yeah, me too. Just because then I spend so much time, with the cats and stuff. That's why I love this. It's like I always say I'm the ultimate level of a crazy cat lady, but there are 2 times, in my life. One time when I go to a cat show and then one time when I go to our annual feline conference. Those are the 2 times where I don't feel crazy at all, because I'm just surrounded by all these amazing people who love cats, and it's the best time ever. Every year I go to the feline conference we have, because those vets, they love cats as well. But a lot of them have more than one cat, but I am probably the one with the most cats there. And, like normally people say, oh my God, you have like 5 cats. And these people, because they're my friends and they love cats so much, they're like, oh, I only have 3, so they feel bad that I have more cats because they love cats so much. So no, it's wonderful, and I love going to cat shows. So I'll actually be going to the CFA annual show this year as a guest. So I'll be hoping to meet a lot of breeders there and get to know a lot of beautiful cats.
That's awesome. Well, we'll be excited to see you there.
Yes.
Now, you've emphasized the importance of environmental enrichment in breeding catteries. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Mm-hmm. Yes, I think this is very, very crucial when we have multi-cat households to really provide multiple resources. So we actually have great guidelines. So the Feline Veterinary Medical Association and the International Cat Care are very passionate about, providing the resources. So we have kind of 5 pillars that we focus on. So number 1 is always providing a safe place. So cats really need to feel safe at home. So if there are multiple cats, we really need to make sure we provide enough resources so each of the cats can really feel safe. So for example, I have this favorite bed, and the cats, all of them love it. So I had to go and get a second and a third one, because otherwise there is a possibility, my cats do not fight or anything. They really like each other. So I'm very lucky. But I think if I didn't provide enough resources for them, it could potentially trigger for them, to fight for those resources. So number 1 is feeling safe. Then another thing that we really need to focus on are resources like food and water, of course. So definitely providing multiple sources of food and water and litter boxes as well. So cats, especially, and putting it all around. So I have dry food because my cats are fed ad libitum. I have dry food all over my house. I do not just put 5 bowls next to each other, So it's not just about the numbers, but also the location. So they need to be in a safe and quiet place. So we do often see when people put a litter box in a corridor where the dogs goes by and then the kids go through and everybody goes through that corridor. That cat doesn't feel safe using the litter box in such a busy room, right? So really making sure that it's in quiet spaces. Then play. Cats want to play. Cats have predatory behaviors, so I love playing. We have those feather wands and stuff, and cats just love to hunt it and, and bite it and really play with it. I was actually judging in Brazil. I was judging a big group of Bengals, beautiful cats, really beautiful. The adult female was one of the most beautiful Bengals I have seen. And there was one kitten from her, and literally he would just want to constantly play with the feather toy, and he would just keep it in his mouth, and with the teeth, and he wouldn't want to let it go. But this is very important to promote this behavioral in cats, because if cats get frustrated, they can kind of redirect it towards the humans. And we can see human-directed aggression when we do not play enough with the cats. So we actually are against the laser pointers quite a lot now, because cats kind of, if you imagine it, cats can never catch it, right? So we feel like it's causing quite a lot of frustration in cats because the feather toys. Yes. Okay. Yes, so we actually try not to promote the laser toys because they chase it, but because the laser can never be catched. So they actually that stimulates some of the predatory behaviors, but then the ultimate goal of the cat when they go hunt, they don't want to just go out there and chase a mice, right? They actually want to catch it. And with the laser, they can never catch it. So if you do it too much and they never end up being actually able to catch it, it can cause some frustration in those cats as well.
That's very interesting. I had
Yes.
never thought about that. And I always thought that the laser pointers were great.
I know. I actually used to do too until I started to learn more about cat behavior. So I've been around cats for 20 years and I always thought these laser pointers are so much fun because the cats look like they're having so much fun with it. But if you think about it, like eventually they usually give up. So we actually love those like feather wands and those kind of toys. Yeah, for those cats. Yeah.
And do you think noise is important with the toys?
I think it depends because some cats can be scared of a noise. I think if they have been used to it since they were kittens, then potentially might not be such a big problem. But I usually prefer not using like toys that make like too much noise for them.
Okay.
Yeah. And then so we covered the 3 pillars. So the providing the safe space, the resources, the play, and then the last 2 actually. We have talking about like respecting cats. It's really providing an environment that respects the cat's senses, so the smell. So we actually like a lot of cats don't like, so we actually against like scented litters as well, because that's not what cats actually like. There are a couple companies now that are going completely unscented, and it's really, really important that we support that because it's really important for the cats. We do have more and more patients that I see that developed asthma as well because people use too many of these scented things and scented litters, and it can actually trigger respiratory disease in these cats as well. So we really try avoiding too many scents. Perfumes, I always put my perfume in a separate room where I keep my clothes and my cats cannot. It's the one room in the house where my cats are not allowed is where I keep my clothes. And I always put my perfume on there, never in front of the cats or around them too much because they are sensitive to those smells.
What about plugins? Like those plugins around the house? Are those a problem?
I usually prefer not using those. Of course, I do have, because when you have multiple cats in the house, you want the house to smell nice. So I usually prefer using those more kind of natural ones that disperse like the smell throughout the day. So it's not a very intense smell at once. So I think those that go and they just spray a lot of the smell at once are not as good as, for example, the ones that are, I use those, I don't know how you call it in English, but the ones that you put into it's like an oil thing and then it transmits through the wood.
That's
so I
what
feel
I
like,
use, yes.
Yes, me too. So probably still not ideal, but I also want my house, so if I had cat with asthma, I probably wouldn't want to use it. But just for, my regular cats, I think because 1, it's not making the noise, and 2, it's not as like a high amount of the smell at once. It's just slowly, going through the day. I think that's probably better. And the last pillar is the importance of kind of behavioral that the cats can predict. So consistency and kind of predictability in our behavior. So just because cats love routines, they really,
they do.
Exactly. So just making
So
sure.
do dogs, though. I mean, animals in general.
Yes, exactly. So I think the one important thing is that, for example, my cats know when I come home from work, it's the time when they get fed, kind of, so they're always excited. And I can see if I come home and I don't feed them, they kind of get a little frustrated with me and stuff. Or if suddenly I come home and I start lifting all of them up when I normally don't do that, it might be a little bit strange for them. So we are just trying to keep consistency in the behavioral and also just in the household. So it's as normal as possible for the cats.
That's great. Well, we are so excited that you joined us today. This was so much fun.
Thank you. I've had a wonderful time. Yeah, as you can tell, I can talk about cats nonstop.
Well, I think we'll have to do another couple shows with you because we have a lot more to talk about.
Yes, thank you so much. I would love to be back. I love this podcast, and the branding and all of it is just so exciting. So thank you for doing this. It means a lot that, they are really people who care about talking about cats and educating people about cats. I am very passionate about that because I think they are very misunderstood creatures. So thank you for everything you do and your passion and love for the cats.
Well, thank you for everything you're doing, and I hope all of our viewers, or not viewers, some people will see us on YouTube, and then others will be listening to us. And I hope that you guys will follow Crazy Cat Vet. And there is a ton of information that's put on besides the funny resting face. And
Yes.
that cat is hilarious, by the way. But there a ton of great information all the time. And I think you even talked about tube feeding the other day. You went on with another vet, and the two of you were going back and forth on that. So there's a lot of breeder education and vet education that can be found on your social medias. Is that correct?
Yes, absolutely. Yes, we've actually just been working with Dr. Fontaine, who is a dear colleague of mine, and he is a specialist in reproduction. And we just wrote a book chapter actually on feline neonatology and importance of actually nutrition in reproduction, because I think we really underestimate the importance of nutrition in pregnant cats because it's very different to dogs, and then of course taking care of kittens and stuff. So so we've been posting a couple of these sessions now on feline neonatology and reproduction, so I'm hoping breeders find it useful.
Well, I'm sure they will, and it's just been great to have you on, and I look forward to seeing you in person soon.
Yes,
and
me too.
I hope that you have a wonderful summer ahead. Will you be traveling to a lot of shows?
Yeah, actually, not too many shows. I am not traveling because because I'm so busy with my job, I only do about 4 shows a year.
Okay.
So I was just in Brazil, and my next show actually will be in October in Brazil as well. But I'm traveling next week. We have our General Assembly for from the Federation in Austria. So I'm actually traveling next week there because I am the Health and Welfare Committee representative. So we have a big meeting there. So
that's wonderful.
Yep.
Well, you're doing a lot of great things.
Yes, I'm busy. Keeping busy.
Well, our listeners can follow you on crazy_cat_vet on Instagram.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate you, and thank you for having me. This was so much fun.
Thank you, doctor.